Everybody, welcome to Geeksvana Live. I hope you're all extremely well. Thank you very much for joining me. Now, there's been a lot of discussion on the channel recently about the future of drone rules here in the UK, especially. And although, of course, the consultations are vital, and there's certainly things that we need to discuss and we need to keep an eye on them, shall we say, we also need to get you in the air and enjoying your drones right now. As a hobbyist, right now in the UK is the best time to enjoy your drones. We have had probably in recent years, certainly in terms of rules. So even though we feel like there might be some pretty tough rules coming down the road, actually right now, it's actually a decent time to be flying your drone. So over the next few weeks, as we go through this December period into very early January, we're going to be bringing you some shows like this and recorded videos, which will essentially be our 2024 updated drone rules series. And these will keep you flying for at least the next couple of years. After 2026, all bets are off in 2028, etc. But hey, you know, we are a good couple of years off, so we can certainly enjoy the recreational side, especially during the next couple of years. So the focus tonight is going to be on airspace. And we're going to hear about the other updates, etc. I say as the month rolls on. So if you are new here, do hit the subscribe button, and if you're already a subscriber, make sure you got notifications switched on to ensure that you actually get the updated videos. So today, as I say, we're going to be providing a walkthrough of the Drone Assist app, as well as talking on a few of the essential points that we need to raise around airspace, essentially, and the airspace mapping, and actually explain how it works, what the little circles are and the colors and restrictions are on the app, and how they apply to us then when we're out flying our drones. This is intended to help you to feel a little bit more confident. So if you've got any questions, there's a couple of ways to get questions across to me into the show tonight. If you're watching the replay, comment below or to the side or wherever YouTube is actually putting the comments this week, because they seem to change it around quite a lot at the moment, don't they? And if you're here live, tag at Geeksvana in the live chat, and we'll come to your questions towards the end, or comments, etc., towards the end as well, unless I spot any whilst the chat's going up in front of me here, which are relevant to the section that I'm on at that moment. So we'll head straight into it. Some general points to keep in mind is that actually the first thing you need to think about in terms of airspace in the UK as a recreational drone flyer is that airspace actually really starts on the ground. Sub 250 grams is certainly the best in terms of opening up more airspace for you, or of course you can gain an A2 CofC, which can help you fly slightly larger drones like the DJI Air 3 behind me. But certainly sub 250 camera drone side of things is really, you know, your DJI Mini drones is really the king of the sky at the moment. So you need to keep in mind the responsibilities in terms of airspace categories. So A1, A2 and A3. So if you are basically flying sub 250 grams, you can fly in the A1 airspace, which means congested areas, built up areas, etc. And you can even fly over people. You just can't fly over any people crowded together in a way that they can't get out of the way quickly. Now that's open to some interpretation, and on the drone code, the CAA give you what their interpretation of that is. So it's up to you to format that, certainly staying away from shopping centres, large crowds of people, that type of thing. Personally, I would stay away from a group of people picnicking if they're sat on the ground, etc., because they're not going to be able to move out of the way particularly quickly. And of course, they've had no kind of safety briefings as far as the drone flying over. And that's just in terms of really keeping things straight and keeping myself out of trouble whilst I'm actually out there flying. My next piece of information would also actually follow up on that, which is Article 241, which means that you can be flying within the rules, but actually the flight itself be deemed dangerous. And of course, you can also be breaking other laws. Just because the CAA controls the skies, I suppose we could call it, it doesn't mean that you can't still be breaking other laws. So bear that in mind, that actually just because you're flying under 400 feet within visual line of sight, you've got a sub 250 gram drone so you can fly over people, it's still possible. And you still need to assess as to whether the flight itself, the basic nature of the flight itself, is actually safe. Not if she is a picnic, I'm seeing coming up in the chat there. That's actually one of my moderators starting to kick off in the chat, which is always fun. So all drones need airspace clearance. Although sub 250 gram gives you some of the benefit in terms of being able to fly in congested areas, etc., without any kind of certification, sub 250 gram gives you no benefit whatsoever in terms of restricted airspace. Whatever the drone you are flying, you need to ensure that you've cleared the airspace. One other important point which has come up recently is not to rely on the manufacturer app. Many people fly DJI drones, and we released a video last month warning you that you should not be following that app, their manufacturer app, etc., because they're simply not accurate. We held discussions following that video with the CAA, and they are actually changing the drone code to clarify the advice to ensure that people don't, because there's a bit of a wording in the drone code in our, which we highlight in our video of Is the Drone Code Safe, which was about a month ago now, where it essentially looked like they were telling you that you can rely on DJI's manufacturer app, when in fact they should be saying it's airspace apps, so things like Drone Assist. So they also released a safety notice to inform people of the same information as well. So at least that's out there. But again, just because your drone is taking off doesn't necessarily mean you're in clear airspace. So tonight for airspace stuff, we're going to be looking at Drone Assist, and you might be asking, why am I looking at Drone Assist when there are other alternatives out there and other variations, other different flavors of it, as it were? Well, really, it's the one that I use. It's free to use. You don't need to log in to the app or the website to be able to get the main information. It is in itself actually available as an app on your phone, etc., and tablet. And it is now, because Altitude Angel, the original makers, have taken control of the app again, it's now being constantly updated. They've obviously fairly recently had all of the SSSI stuff added on there. So it's also trusted by me and many users for a very, very long time. It's been on my phone. It's been in my pocket when I'm flying for many, many years. And it's just what I'm used to using. So I'm passing on something that works for me to you guys. So there isn't, but it's important to also say that there's no affiliation or sponsorship from Altitude Angel or Drone Assist, etc. at all. I would have thought, even though they've got some services running off it, I can't see that they make too much money, especially from the recreational side, people not even signing in, etc. So it's not really one of those kind of products, etc. So it isn't a sponsored sector. Another popular alternative is actually the Grey Arrows version, which is called Drone Scene, which is powered by the same mapping. I just don't personally use it, so I've got no experience or reference points in terms of any of the extra benefits or negatives or anything else that it may have. I've never needed to switch away from Drone Assist, so that in itself should show you that it's obviously quite a reliable thing, basically. So you can access the maps via the usual app stores. You can also go to dronesafetymap.com as well, which brings up the main mapping. I find that quite easy to use, the large screen for being able to actually go out before we actually go out and do the flight. And for the purpose of this video, I'm going to be keeping to the free version, basically, of Drone Assist app, which doesn't require being signed in, etc. There are deeper functions and benefits to it, but we can go through that another time. And also, I have another video, which will be linked in the description after the show, which was my breakdown of the new app when it was relaunched earlier this year. And that has a bit more information in terms of how to log your flights on there and that type of thing. But today, we're going to be focusing on really the part of the mapping that actually works for free and without you having to log in. So sort of adjust myself slightly to be in the center of the circle here. So here is the map that you'll be presented with. Let me just bring this up on the screen so I can see it as well. And when you open up the app, or if you're visiting the website, this is the kind of view which you're going to be able to see. It's a fairly good cross-section, is why I've chosen this mapping area here, which shows lots of the airspace colors you might experience. The single most important tip that I can give you when you start with this is really to ensure, if anything feels like it's a little out of place, or even what you're 1% unsure on something, confirm the information another way. Perhaps pull up the NOTAM or check with the CAA directly or something like that, or send me an email, sean@geeksvana.com. You are responsible for your drone flights, and even checking this app doesn't actually necessarily completely remove any kind of responsibility. So it's not going to help you in court, etc. if you have checked this app, but you weren't really sure of the information, or there was something clearly wrong with the information that's up there. So don't always rely on what's actually happening on there. Also, don't always rely on the colors. It does generally stay consistent, that the red means something and the blue means other things in yellows, etc. But again, you will notice that will change from time to time on some of the uploads for all sorts of different technical reasons. So it's good to make sure, if you see a blue circle and think, oh, that's a temporary one or a future one, etc., do ensure that you actually go in and check the text on the right hand side that pops up here, as you can see, and make sure that you really do know exactly what is actually happening there, basically. Very, very important to do, in my opinion. And also you will have different colors. Let me just zoom in here, and we should start to pop up the yellow circles at some point here. And yeah, so basically you have some yellow areas here as well, like this one over here towards Alton, which is a moving searchlight display. And I know that if we zoom in on areas around where we are, you will also get little things such as any hazards on the ground, so military bases and that type of thing, which of course that will become more important as FRZs come in, etc., in terms of the National Security Act, which is coming into place fairly soon as well. But yellow circles generally mean a danger area or something is actually happening on the ground. As I say, things like military small arms ranges, that kind of thing can be there. The large blue circle here that you can see here is actually an advance notice of a restriction coming. This one is a military graduation event. So a temporary restriction's been given approval, and it gives the dates and times for the restrictions, which you can see all of the information here on the right-hand side, and it starts to give you the full NOTAM text. And the bit that you really want to be aware of there, obviously, is the area which it's covering, which it will show on the map itself, but then it will show you the dates and the times. So this one is the 23rd of the 12th from 10 a.m. To 3 p.m. So you know it's going to be live or during that time. But actually, during the 23rd or the 12th, if you are flying in the area, we would actually be able to, or rather, sorry, the 15th, the 12th, you'd actually be able to still fly your drone outside of those times without seeking permission. Now, one of the things which is also interesting, which is the fact that these are UAS geographical zones, temporary restrictions, RATs, there's all sorts of different names for them. You will often also now, as you can see, actually, it's actually just behind my face. So I'm just going to very quickly kill my camera for a moment there, but you can see there in the bottom paragraph, there's actually a telephone number. There's a mobile number there for you to be able to call and find out exactly what's happening. Now, what you might find is that if you're flying in an area perhaps on the very edges or something's overlapping or something of that nature, that you can actually get permission to still fly. The only thing I would bear in mind, because of course the onus is always to keep airspace open, so they have to put a telephone number on there, but many of these events, many of these restrictions, including those ran by police, etc., will often need you to have a good reason. So perhaps flying commercially and that type of thing, and they'll need a lot of information from you as well, basically. Elsmega, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Anyone else's flyer ID just expired? Yes, got mine through FPV UK. Yes, I remember you doing that actually, and it's yeah, it's strange to have the first flyer IDs expiring, isn't it, after the first 5-year periods. Now the red sort of tube-looking signs here that you see here are the airport restriction zones, and these are made up of 2 sections: the central main restriction zone and the runway protection zone. You absolutely must not fly here without express permission, and the express permission is actually a little bit more complicated than you may even think. It isn't literally just an email from the airport. Actually, there's a whole sort of subsection that you actually need, and it will always ensure that you've actually got that in writing. They'll often have you follow their own process to provide all sorts of information. It will include things like your details, why you're flying there, where you are flying specifically. So they will often ask you to highlight it on the map. One of the good things actually about the Drone Assist, which is a signed in part of it, is they do have the UTM ready style things, where on a lot of the airports you're able to actually digitally give the information across on this app. However, as I say, you have to be signed in, and we're not doing that today. And so they'll ask things like where you're flying, so the corner of X road and this park, etc., and actually even your drone serial number from your controller. Then if permission's granted, you'll get the email approving you to say that you can fly, but that doesn't actually still mean that you can fly. On the day, you are basically given instructions within the email on how to contact air traffic control, and like any other aircraft at the airport, you'll have to request final takeoff permission, essentially. And as long as nothing else has changed and ATC are happy, they will check your mobile number is correct and give you permission to fly. Now, keep in mind that they might call you, so don't put your phone in aircraft mode, or perhaps have a second mobile phone, but be ready to take a call if there's an issue where they need you to land for whatever reason, etc. And also, of course, be ready to call them if you have a flyaway or some kind of rare problem that might actually happen. Most will then ask you to call to say that you've landed and that you're clear of their airspace as well. So there is an entire process in terms of unlocking that particular part of the airspace. You'll also see, as you look around the map, you'll see these small blue circles. And you can see on this one here, if I bring it up more to the center here and zoom in a little bit, this one's actually a firework display. And they can, as I think, be anything from firework displays to user inputted drone flights. Now, this kind of thing doesn't actually show anywhere apart from on the app. So it's useful to put the information on there. But this only goes to users that are signing into Drone Assist or using one of the Attitude Angel products, basically. So, which is really important. Now, if you do zoom in, it's telling me at the bottom here to keep zooming in to see the ground hazards. I'm probably choosing a really rural area there. So let's go into the middle of Guildford where there'll be lots of ground hazards. You can see then all of these little yellow boxes that start to pop up, and these are the ground hazard data, which can also be used to plan your flight, especially if you're not visiting the site itself until the day of the flight itself, etc. So you can see that there's things like, you can click here and you can see the Royal Grammar School. So you can literally, perhaps you're flying in Guildford for the first time and it's going to tell you where all the schools are, those type of things, so you can plan your flight accordingly, and perhaps avoid those kind of areas. And even just actually knowing that these things are actually there can be, in my opinion, a huge advantage. As you zoom in, you do tend to get a few more bits and pieces. There's obviously the railway line with a little safety buffer there, with the railway hazard area, etc., and all sorts of different things, all sorts of different pieces of information. You'd also get power lines even, and that kind of thing, where their large pylons, etc., will appear on here as well. So it's really good. It's really good. And just again, bear in mind that once you've dialed in enough to get the ground hazards, then the airspace stuff actually starts to come off the map, and you have to basically get back out, zoom out. There's a little blank space in between, and then bang, it pops back and shows the airspace again. Now, one of the recent updates was actually to bring a lot of levels of information in terms of triple SIs. And for this, I'm going to pop out and I'm going to go to the South Coast, because there's so many triple SIs on the South Coast. I'm pretty confident we can probably zoom in and find one. There we go. That actually isn't a triple SI. There you go. That's just actually a ground hazard. That's an interesting one, because it doesn't actually state what it is. It's just obviously the walkway there. Let me go across to another coastline here. Bear with me just 2 seconds. I'm trying to pick areas where I feel like there would be triple SIs, which perhaps says something in itself. Yes, so here you have it here. Now, this information until very recently wasn't actually on here, but it now includes being able to dial right down and get the actual information in terms of what the triple SI is for. And following one of our videos, again, they actually updated this mapping to actually be able to click across, because we were showing the 2 reference points that you can use for it. But now they've actually done this. So you can click here as it opens up nicely for me, and of course loads first time. I'm sure the map will work. Please hold. Here we go. Designated sites, Natural England. That's the site we were waiting to come to life. And once this loads, you'll basically be able to see what's actually happening in terms of the actual triple SI, including looking up the citations and also contact details, etc., and that type of thing. So there's clearly it's clearly helpful in terms of being able to find out what's actually going on. And there's obviously there's a big difference between flying over a place which has got protected fungus and perhaps flying over nested birds, etc. So it all needs protecting, of course, but a drone would impact those things differently, and this will actually provide the information so that you can find out what's going on really quickly. There is a deeper dive on triple SIs on Geeksvana. That show, again, will be linked in the description following this show, and goes into more detail in terms of what to look for, and also looks at a couple of the examples in terms of how the areas themselves, the triple SI protection officers themselves, run things and deal with it. My overall advice would be to ensure that you research a triple SI fully before flying, which might include actually picking up the phone or sending an email and talking to the protection officer involved. I'm sure that they would be delighted in most cases to discuss it with you briefly before your flight rather than report you for a potentially serious offence afterwards. So do be careful and take full advantage of what I think is excellent information on the Drone Assist app and the mapping website as well. Obviously, in terms of my old eyes, I find it easier to look at this stuff on the large screen as well before I fly. Now, these are the restrictions which are often large on the maps and cover a very wide area, but they have been very accurate in terms of breaking them down, which I think is really, really useful. Now, there is actually another kind of large, which I'm going to bring up here for another example here. So we have this rather large red zone, and these are often around prisons or sometimes actually even around towns randomly, but they do not apply to your drone flight. And I call them sort of red herring, red circles. So if you see a circle, so let's take this one as an example, which actually came in as a question from somebody, one of our viewers on an email specifically. You can see here, it pops up the reference number EGR 204 on the right-hand side. Now, if we are to check that against the database, you've got a nice, as you can see here, this rather simple looking map, which is actually all of the danger areas and areas actually explained in detail, and you can actually go down and search them. So we're going to look this one up, which is EGR 204, and this is actually listed on one of our other videos as a download, but I'm more than happy to provide it as a download again. And yet, so EGR 204 Long Lartin applies to helicopters only, except those operated on behalf of UK police forces. Now, interestingly, the ones around prisons are actually, I believe, to actually, they're not to sort of, stop people escaping prison in terms of stopping helicopters flying near them, but it's because, of course, helicopters crashing in that area, if a helicopter crash within the grounds or within the building, obviously there are people that can't get out very easily. That's kind of the idea of prisons. But actually, yes, you're basically able to keep the area clear of helicopters from a safety point of view. But obviously, if you were to be greeted with this circle, then actually you can still fly as long as you've checked this out basically fully. And look this up against the database. So there's a few little checks you can do, but again, it gives you a bit more confidence. I tend to actually carry that PDF on my phone. It can zoom in and out with the 2-finger push there, and it gives me a bit more confidence in terms of if anybody was to come up to me, police or anybody else, and say, look, you're actually flying in a red circle, you're actually flying in a restricted zone, I can show them actually it doesn't actually count in terms of drones. Now, we have spoken to them in terms of getting this kind of thing removed and having Drone Assist as the one true drone voice. Obviously, it is drone safety map after all. And this is actually kind of a bit of a hangover from the older regulations in the UK in terms of how they were loaded onto the app. It was explained actually in our live stream when we had two of the senior people from Altitude Angel on to talk about the new launch. There's a live stream on that if you want to go back and watch it. But again, it's basically to do with the older information and actually how that was launched. But hopefully one day soon it will actually change. So that is a very quick rundown of how to ensure your airspace is clear for your drone flights. This is a question which has come up, as I say, a lot in the DMs, emails, and comments on videos as well. I wanted this to be on the channel for anyone who wants to be able to find things out fairly simply. We tried to keep that to under half an hour, which is excellent. We do have another video coming up looking at temporary restrictions and how the CAA tell drone pilots about them and how to understand what they're actually sending you through. So we'll have a look at that. But for now, let's head over to the chat and see what people are saying about this. Thank you very much, everybody that's joining us. It's I have to say, one of the things that really cheers me up, I think, is that it's really fantastic to see the amount of people that show up for these kind of shows as well, where we are breaking things down and getting a little bit technical and actually trying to explain how to get you guys flying and how to enjoy it. And it's fantastic to see the community engage in the numbers that do. I'd love to see you all hit that like button. I know it's one of the things that I always ask for in my videos, which is a bit YouTuber cheesy. I apologize, but do please, if you wouldn't mind, I would appreciate it. It brings a smile to my face and it's free. Amok Time Flies, good to see one of our members. He says he was flying on a beach during the summer and ended up having to give 2 random kids the UAV fail lecture because they wouldn't go away. They were fascinated. Excellent, great idea though. Really, really great idea in terms of not quite bringing them into the operation, but at least they know what's happening if you scream that something's actually gone wrong. Johnny DRC, isn't Drone Assist only for the UK? Yes, there is some European coverage, there is some island coverage, etc. There is a US product which is coming, but yes, this is a UK Drone Rules series, hence the little Union Jack in the background there. But thank you for, I can see lots of our members, lots of our American viewers. It looks like Itisak Sam is making himself, which is an awesome username, isn't it? Itisak FPV is making himself a new drinking game every time I say etc. I was saying that a lot at the beginning of the stream, wasn't I? I always have a word or two. It's good to have a Geeksvana drinking game. Frankly is one of my words. You know, I'm tired if I say frankly a lot in one of my live shows, but yeah, it's good fun. And thank you again, Elsmeghead, for the super chat. Vince, Geeksvana, is it good practice to log your flights on Drone Assist? I don't think it's necessarily something that I would call good practice, Vince, but it's I've gone through different stages. At one stage, I was logging everything, actually fairly early on, and there was actually even a service that they used to run where they would send you, and this is many years ago now, they would send you a text message to tell you that they were alerting you that the tracking network for aircraft, manned aircraft, was actually showing that an aircraft was coming into the area. So you would often get 747 passing at X thousand feet, which doesn't really matter, but it was just good to have, because sometimes you would get a little one popping through saying a helicopter's coming into your region. So there used to be, I think there actually used to be even more reasons to do it, and I've gone through different phases. At the moment, I don't necessarily, unless it's in an area where I think there might be an issue. But again, the only people that are seeing it are the other users of Drone Assist at the moment. When that changes, perhaps with UTM, etc., in the future, it will be essential. It will probably be required in the future, to be honest. And I know that's not exactly popular, but I think that is where it will end up in probably 5 to 10 years time. But yeah, I don't know whether necessarily it is something which I think is handy in terms of I have actually pulled the app out on my phone a few times when I'm out flying and people have approached me and I've shown them that I've logged the flight. That has a little bit of value there as well, but at the moment there isn't any massively practical use for it. Surely Dev, I have my local ATC on my mobile contacts, register to fly my FRZ sometimes and get final approval on the day and call when I'm done. Excellent. Yeah, that's superb. I've done the same myself. Gatwick have cleared me a few times now, which is awesome. And actually, you tend to find the larger airports, you might think that they're more intimidating, but actually they tend to have a really good system running in the background there. And actually I use the Drone Assist the digital system to get that approval for Gatwick. You tend to find that they run you through a few more last minute things with the larger airports, so you might get a security check or something, but yes, normally it does work. Enhanced Life Path, good to see you. Is the Air2S obsolete in 2024 in the UK? I have an A2 CFC. I don't think it's obsolete, no. I've got the Air 3, which I fly with my A2 CFC, even though it's a C1 aircraft, of course. It's a whole other story. But I don't think it's obsolete, but you, of course, need to bear in mind that you need to keep that 50-meter horizontal separation or thereabouts. And that's the issue, really, that it does start to restrict it. So, I mean, my perfect bag, I keep meaning to make a video of my perfect drone combination, are 3 drones. The Air 3, one of the mini drones, that's the Mini 3 behind us there, but I've also got the Mini 4. So one of the sub 250s, the Air 3, and also the Avata, which with the sub 250 rules, but then also the A2 CFC, which allows me to fly the Air 3 in congested areas with 50-meter separation, but also allows me to fly the Avata being sub 500 grams, as if it's in the A1 airspace, just not intentionally flying over people. So with the A2 CFC and sub 250 benefits, I tend to get a bag of 3 drones that can handle all the jobs. If I'm able to get a bit more separation of uninvolved people, or if I'm in a slightly quieter spot and I can get the Air 3 up with that even higher quality camera, then great. So no, I don't think it's necessarily obsolete. If you want an easy life and the camera on the Mini 3 or Mini 4 or even Mini 2 is good enough for what you need, it's 110% what I would recommend, but I don't think it's completely obsolete as such. Lindsay Hayes, hi Geeksvana and all, call that a rural area, it's Guildford. Yeah, no indeed, absolutely. I know exactly what you mean there. Yeah, Josh BFC 27. Sorry, I can't take your call whilst I'm flying over a nuclear missile silo. Yes, I think they will be doing a little bit more than probably calling you at that stage, it has to be said. Another trucking channel, I think River Humber has now been given that status, but not checked it since it does nothing but rain, lol. Yes, no, indeed. And that's one of the things which I think is really, really effective with the Drone Assist app and this side of things, is that they've added all of this information, which I think is superb, because you're able to literally click on the SSSI, bring up the full details, read within seconds exactly what it is. And the other thing I like about all that is not just that it's giving me the information, but if anything happens out in public, if it's challenged at all, within seconds I can be showing someone on the phone that I'm completely clear to fly, in terms of the fact that it's, you know, I've checked and it's out of season, or it's some rare rock or something, which obviously I'm ensuring I'm not stepping on and not allowing my drone to disturb that rare rock. I'm being a little bit facetious there. How about time flies? Geeksvana, I just checked my brain on Drone Assist. Or it's yellow, either birds nesting or just special rocks there. Okay, excellent. Elsmeghead, a Geeksvana drinking game, which is interesting. I think I've actually just said it. So if you were using either which is interesting for your drinking game this evening, Geeksvana drinking game, or etc., then I think you're probably quite drunk by now this evening, actually. But there we go. Oh, and an unexpected ad break. Okay, well, we'll get those on pause. It's good that we've managed to avoid them till this point by the looks of it. So Quacker's production is saying, I like logging flights most of the time as it gives me backup data. Also, there is an option for alerts if logged in. Yes, and the backup data I think is quite good especially for commercial flights as well. I'd certainly log all of those. But you know, obviously I've already got the log on the drone itself in terms of recreational side. I've kind of, as I say, I've kind of gone full circle, and I've come around from logging all my flights to not. And I suppose it's just you know, whatever you personally feel comfortable with. But as I say, I think in the future there's going to be more important sides to it, basically. So there we go. Excellent. So whilst you're all making up your Geeksvana drinking games in the chat, perhaps we'll have a members live stream where we actually do have a live drinking game. Who knows? Perhaps over Christmas and the New Year. But thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. I really, really do appreciate it. Hopefully that was short enough to be watchable, but obviously long enough to be able to get into the subject matter, to give you a little bit of confidence. Share this video out, stick it in your saved, your watch later file as well, so that you've got it for future reference points, etc. I will be adding chapters to this tomorrow once YouTube finishes processing it. It tends to take a while to process live streams these days. And that's it. So I will see you again very, very soon. The next things we've got coming up is a bit of an issue around terrorism and drones, which has been rearing its head recently, and I've got a lot to say on. More on the CAA consultation and temporary air restrictions for drones in the UK. So again, if you are new here, do remember to hit that subscribe button so that you can find out about all of that wonderful and extremely varied. You certainly cannot accuse us of not having varied drone content on the channel, but all of that's coming up very soon over the next few days as well. So I'll see you very soon. Sean out.